So the conversation came up recently about like what is the best Transformer video game as of this moment. You know, we are January 2018 going into February, and what is at this point, if you pick up a controller, what is the best Transformer game that you could play in the modern era today? And because any of the older games that came before, like let's say the PlayStation, are pretty fairly easy to get online through dubious methods to play for
Hmm.
free. Um, and there's just a lot of stuff out there to enjoy. So I figured we'd kind of like go through what we feel is like some of our favorite Transformer games that have existed. And I mean, I actually did a panel at TFCon in I think it was 2010, talking about the history of Transformers and video games. And it was funny because when I did that panel in 2010, we didn't have even like War for Cybertron.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when I did that panel, it was like this is what exists of Transformers and video games, and it was like a very short list of stuff. There wasn't much there. Um, and then when I finished that panel, like the years that would come, tons of great stuff would come out afterwards.
Didn't you actually have a cassette tape for one of the games?
Oh, I had
That was
now when I
that
did
was that was
when I
on
did that
loan though, no?
oh yeah, when I did that panel, I had the original Commodore 64 stuff,
Mm.
the Sinclair Spectrum stuff, which is what the cassette was, the tape cassette
Hmm.
stuff. I had Famicom Disk System stuff. I had from the Famicom, GBA. I brought physically the actual games too because some people, it's as crazy as it sounds. Some of the people in the audience didn't know what a tape cassette was.
Yeah.
So I actually brought and a B drive uh, disc, which even kids of the modern era might be familiar with an A drive disc for your for your tower of your computer,
Hmm.
but not a lot of people know B drive because that got phased out very early into the late 80s, early 90s. So I had copies of the game on B drive, so I brought that too. I brought a whole bunch of stuff to show off, um, including like even sealed copies of some of the old games. And that panel is interesting. I'll put a link in the description. I believe it was on Vangelis's channel. Vangelis recorded it in its completion, more or less, and
Hmm.
and then hosted it on his channel. It's a fun little thing to watch, although dated. So when you're going to be like, oh, you left out that game, yeah, well, that game didn't probably exist when I did that panel,
Yeah, exactly.
but but it was a cool little panel I did, and so we just want let's just like go back and forth some of our favorite Transformer games, and I mean if you want to start, and then I'll jump in afterwards.
I would talk about the Transformers game for PS2 specifically, but this is the Japanese one. So this
Oh, you're
was
talking about, yeah, the one that's based off of Generation One.
Yeah, so this is based off of G1, and it was weird because it's a Japanese game, but I think the majority of the game is in English, if anything.
100. Okay, okay, this game, it's called Transformers.
Or the Transformers.
What we call it today now, like within the fandom, it's Transformers Call to the Future. That's what we call it today. It's like its unofficial name. That way, we're able to separate it from all the other games that have the exact same name. This game, I think, was definitely when it was made was almost 100% intended for an American stateside release.
Yeah.
And just for some weird reason, I guess it was not the right time, the right place. Transformers wasn't as popular as it is now. They just decided not to release it,
Mm.
even though the game was 100% English. And that game came out in 2003.
Three, yeah.
So we were kind of like in between Armada and Energon at that point.
It was super weird because I stumbled upon it through dubious methods, and I put it in, and I was like, "Oh, I'm expecting a Japanese game," and it was all in English, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I started playing, and I was like, "How come I'm understanding everything? Everything is in English." Just I thought this game was Japanese, and I remember I showed it to Proto Man here, and was no, this wasn't the game you played all the way through. That
Oh,
was
I played it all the way through.
no, but wasn't there? Or did I make you? Or did I lend it to you, quote unquote?
Oh no
And
no no! I managed to get a copy of my own.
okay, okay.
Um, which was like it was a special Japanese version that also came with like a bonus disc, which had all kinds of trailers and stuff for all kinds of other material.
Hmm.
And I remember it was done by the company that did it was Atlas. And it was the funny thing about this game is
Well, it's the publisher is Atlas, and then apparently the developer is Winky Soft.
Wikisoft, yeah. And the funny thing with this game was like it was like to my knowledge like the first and only Transformer game that was like Double Dragon. It's like a beat 'em up.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
It was kind of like I don't want to say it's like the Dynasty Warrior games because it's not like that, but it's a similar kind of 3D beat 'em up. You go into an environment and you only advance the story just beating up stuff. I mean, we kind of have that today with Transformers Devastation,
Yeah,
you know, um, but it's just back then that was like the only real Transformer game that kind of was like that. Not to mention it was one of the few up to that point it was one of the few Transformer games even based in the G1 universe because we had those Commodore 64 games,
hmm,
we had two Japanese Nintendo games which were both like, Mystery of Convoy and the Headmaster one, which were both pretty terrible games. And then we just, I think up to that point, aside from that, was a cell phone game, which was like a strategy cell phone game, which was Transformers G1 Awakening. We did not have a legitimate, good G1 based video game. And so this was the first time we had something. It had, at the time, the cutscenes were good for what they were at the time.
yeah.
And it was very hype. And the animation model that was used for Rodimus Prime was based off of the Ox Studio design, so a lot of stuff going for it. The voice acting wasn't terrible,
I thought it was
but it
okay.
wasn't Peter Cullen and Frank Welker either,
No.
so don't expect like, amazing voice acting. But it was pretty good and I actually liked a lot of the story that was in the game because the story of the game is the season 3 crew go back in time to more or less what the timeline of season 1. So essentially like 2006, 2007 characters from season 3 going back in time to 1985 to like warn the Autobots or something. And there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and even like Rodimus admitting that he killed Optimus Prime and he feels responsible for it, which was something that was never covered in any of the actual fiction of Transformers. You never really saw that true guilt, from Hot Rod Rodimus Prime, and yet it exists in this game. So cool stuff, and the voice acting added to it.
And it
The
seems like,
double
and
matrix.
then I guess the way the game worked is like you play through a scenario with the Autobots first,
Yep.
and then you complete that, and then you play through the scenario of the Decepticons. So very similar how that the setup is for War of Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, where you get
Yeah,
to play both
and
sides.
there's two separate endings. So you could have either an Autobot ending or a Decepticon ending, and was a really really good game.
Hmm.
Really really good. I actually liked it quite a bit,
Like
and it's not difficult to find either.
for the time it came out, it was very surprising. Like
Oh yeah, for what? Well, at the
again, like
time when it came out, it was probably I don't want to say it was one of the best Transformer games, but it probably was like probably the top three that you could have had, and considering it was a PlayStation 2 game that had probably the best graphics you could have had at the time, it was definitely one of the best.
mhm.
Any others?
Oh, what else do I have on my list here? I put down Beast Wars Transmetals, the N64 version,
Oh,
because
the N64 version though.
because if
Interesting.
because if I remember right, the PlayStation one was a little bit weird. I forgot which one. It was either the PlayStation Transmetal game or the N64 one had extra characters that.
They both did, but it was different characters.
Okay.
And the N64 one, its biggest claim to fame is that
It
it
had the
was
voice
a
acting, right?
the both of them had voice acting. It's just that I between the two versions, I find the PlayStation version was way better because it had the ability to have FMVs.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of original CG done by Mainframe
Yeah.
just for this video game. Then you add on top of that, because there were certain characters that were unique to that version, aka you got Transmetal Rhinox
Yeah.
and Transmetal Waspinator that never had a show appearance, but yet here they are in this game in CG made for just this game. Like, imagine you're watching, there's the Maximals inside the Axelon, talking about something that's happening with the Predacons, and there's Transmetal Rhinox for the first time ever
Yeah,
just talking,
exactly.
and there. Now, granted, he wasn't voiced by Richard Newman,
Hmm.
so he wasn't like most of the voice actors in this game are their original Beast Wars voice actors: Scott McNeil, David Kay, Gary Chalk. But certain characters where the characters were obviously like, like Richard Newman was only known for Rhinox, and Rhinox isn't playable in this game,
Right.
so they didn't make an effort to get him. But there was others though that were,
Well, because I'm trying to remember if I liked the fighting in the N64 one. I think it was the N64 one. That did we get to
I
play
per-
that one?
I played both. I personally feel the N64 one is kind of flawed all around. The
Mm.
only thing I could give it credit for is the graphics are slightly better for the models. The CG models are slightly better for the N64
Oh,
one,
I gotta
but
look.
I
I
find
gotta
I
look at
find
these.
that the overall character choice combined with better quality voice acting, again because of that CD quality
Mm.
as opposed to a cartridge, combined with videos. um, they had a really cool opening intro in the Japanese version. The Japanese version had its own unique intro that was really good, as opposed to the American version was good too, but the music wasn't as nice. Just a lot of stuff going for it, a lot of stuff.
I'm
And
just
again,
I'm just trying to remember the one I played with you. Like I think we were at a friend's house and they
the
had
one
it.
that we played
It's a
together was
PlayStation
the
one.
PlayStation version.
Okay, so that one's the better one, right?
Yeah, it's way
All right.
better.
Yeah.
It had a better fight engine,
Yeah.
and again, the unlockable characters of you get Bakhan, excuse me, not Bakhan. You get
Ravage.
Ravage, which is pretty much just a repaint of
Cheetor.
Cheetor,
Yeah.
but not like as in the not like the what's the word I'm looking for? Not like the old Ravage X9 toy. It's more of a just a real black repaint of Cheetor.
Hmm.
You got the BotCon exclusive Windrazor, which was
Hmm.
just a repaint of Silverbolt, which that was cool because that was a character that wasn't a show character. Got its own voice actor, got its own character development, all that stuff. Has its own super move, so that was cool. Um, it's a really really good game, and again, it was also one of those games at the time when it came out, probably one of the best Transformer games at the time.
Yeah.
And you combine it with it had its own unique story, which is it's a fighting game, but you have to take over territories leading towards the opponent's base. So if you're the Maximals, you go all the way to the Predacon base, and when you finally win there, then the Predacons are at the Maximal base going like, we took over your base, and then you have to come all the way back.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it's a really 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 good game. I like it a lot. I thought the it's great to get fresh material. Like if you've watched all of Beast Wars and you want more Beast Wars, this is kind of like a hidden episode,
Yeah.
like a lost episode because it's David Kay, Peter Cullen,
Yeah.
Gary
Gary
Chalk,
Chalk.
Ian Corlett, like Scott McNeil, all of those characters come back, reprise their roles, new CG, new storytelling, and
Venus Turzo too, right?
Venus unfortunately didn't reprise. She is in the game
Hmm.
because
Black Arachne is in one of them, I
because
think.
what you get they took um, they took the Transmetal Tarantulas, which is a playable character, and then made a Black Arachnia unlockable character from
Yeah.
that. And I believe that doesn't sound like Venus's voice. Like there's
Oh.
someone just it's like a sound alike, but it is Tarantulas' voice actor. I forget his name. Ian something is Tarantulas. He actually reprises the role too. So pretty good stuff. That's another really good game.
Yeah. What else do I have on my list here? I remember I picked up Armada,
Mm.
and I was like messing around with it. And I was like, wait a minute, what? This is actually really fun. What?
Armada
I feel
actually
bad. I feel
was
really bad for sleeping on it. Like just for
yeah.
like passing it when it came out, and then picking it up later. And I was like, I want to try and find this, and then really, really surprised about how the game played and the mechanics of it and all that kind of stuff.
That game had a weird production history because originally it was called just Transformers Armada, then it was called Transformers Prelude to Energon. They kind of wanted to use it as a because it came out late in the lifespan of the Armada toy line, and then ultimately in the end they just settled on calling it Transformers. And this was the first ever good Transformer game, which was up to that point, Transformers was always done in a very 8-bit kind of style.
Hmm.
And like, there was, like I said before, Commodore 64, Sinclair Spectrum, some really crappy Nintendo games, and then you had some Game Boy stuff here and there. That was it. There was nothing else really that was good. Then you got into the PlayStation era, and that one Beast Wars game that we got before, which was terrible, by Hasbro Interactive. And then we had the Japanese Fighter, which was then translated and brought over here, that we just mentioned previously. That was okay. This was the first time we ever had a good, solid, like, you don't just have to be a fan to enjoy this
Yeah.
game. And it's a big game. There's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of collectibles, and it's good voice acting,
Hmm.
and just a good game in general. And again, Gary Chalk does Optimus Prime's role in it. And I'm not a fan of Red Alert's voice actor in this, but everyone else is still pretty good though in it. It's a really, really good game. I find that one of the best scenes in that game is when you get to there's one stage, and if you don't know Armada, the shock value is even bigger because you're on this Decepticon warship that you think you are, and you're raiding it and everything, and then you finally awaken the ship, and then you realize you were inside Tidal Wave all that
Yeah.
time, and then you escape Tidal Wave, and then you have to fight Tidal Wave transformed, and he's just it's almost like similar to that of like Colossus, Shadow of the Colossus, like fighting these bosses that are just absolutely massive, raining missiles down on you, and it was crazy. And I remember playing that game through with Hotshot initially, and really good game. Had a lot of because clearly the guys who worked on it were big fans of the '86 movie. So when Unicron was in it, they made sure to do a lot of quotes from the '86 movie in
Oh
relation to
wow.
Unicron. But that's a really good solid video game. Not just like, oh, it's a Transformer game that's good. It's a very solid good video game in
Mm.
general. And that was actually like when I was doing the panel at TFCon, I wanted to talk about that one more, but we started to run out of time, and
Yeah.
that game came out at the tail end of the lifespan of games at the time, so I had to kind of skip over that one. I just mentioned, hey, it's a really good game. Check it out. Any others?
I will bunch together War of Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. They both came out for the PS3. Very good games.
Yep.
Surprisingly, really fun and good multiplayer for both of them, and a really good story to tell. And you could tell that the developer
Yep. High Moon Studios.
High Moon, like really had a lot of love for G1, and I think they really, really enjoyed working on it and setting a good, I want to say, standard for it for people. Like, hey, this is what you can do with it. You can do all of this. You know?
They really, this was, in my opinion, the best, specifically War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. Without a doubt, it's kind of an equal tie with me. I lean more towards Fall of Cybertron because there was more customization for your own personal character, but
Mm.
I find that those games were not only easily the best Transformer games ever made, but they truly set the standard for how other video game companies could do a Transformer game. Like how you could tell a story with transformations, how you could do multiplay, how you could do death matches, how you
Mhm.
could do customization. I felt that they set the standard that I feel, still to this day, I feel other companies should like follow. And I mean, like as much as I loved like Transformers Devastation as a game, I felt that um, I felt that you could still do more. Where Transformers Devastation was a beat 'em up with pre-made characters and a kind of a pre-made story, really like that. And there wasn't much of an online play or anything like that.
Mhm.
Where with Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron, you just had this like it wasn't a MMORPG, but it's like I almost felt like it could have been one.
Yeah.
Like it was just this amazing, crazy game in this amazing, crazy world. I'll never forget the first time playing the Omega Supreme segment, and Omega Supreme's chasing after like you're playing as the Decepticons getting chased by Omega Supreme, and just having this massive Transformer just tearing away trying to get at you. Very reminiscent of like when the Nemesis is chasing you in Star of Resident Evil.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're familiar with fight video games like Resident Evil, when Nemesis was chasing you, not the Nemesis ship from Transformers, the villain from Resident Evil, the zombie. Um, that was just an amazing game. Again, easily, in my opinion, the best Transformer games ever made. So much so that there's a toy line.
Yeah.
There's a toy line based off of it. Had some really great toys. I love the War for Cybertron toys. All of them are spectacular. Um, it's just everything. I love the fact that we have character customization
I think
that you could.
I think with these two games, I really like that Hasbro really went all in and they gave a really nice push,
Oh yeah,
for this whole series. Just like you said, the toys, the game itself, the multiplayer, and then letting you customize your own character
they
and all
had
that kind
art
of stuff.
books. They had an art book. They had toys. They had they had a novel that was kind of a prequel story to it. There was so much going on for that game, and still to this day, like I could still see myself popping in Fall of Cybertron and playing online with somebody,
Mm.
and doing they used to have a like a capture the flag kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You've captured C, you've captured D. Like I used to do that one to level up my character as much as possible, and then I do like these big battle matches and stuff where you just got to survive wave after wave of Decepticons with your team, and if one of your members get taken out, someone else has to heal you,
Yep.
and so it was a real teamwork effort thing with your customized characters. And I had this like at the time I had this like sideswipe character that was customized to kind of be like Proto Man colors. It was fun. It was a really fun game, and I mean, to this day, it's amazing. We've had Transformer games from the big companies afterwards, but never have really gone that same vein, so to speak.
Yeah.
Any others?
I'd put Devastation on there. Like again, it's
Oh, it's
just
a good
more.
game.
It's more like you're getting the band back together and seeing, hearing, and like seeing the ads for it and all the voice actors being happy to see each other again. It's kind of like a reunion kind of thing. You
Yeah,
know.
almost all the voice actors in this game were the original G1 voice actors. So like even like Michael Bell for Sideswipe and stuff.
Hmm.
Like everyone that could have come back came back. Meaning
Yeah.
like I mean Starscream's in it, but you can't bring back Chris Latta.
Yeah. Of
He's
course
passed
not.
away. But anyone that could have came back came back. So like they really made like if Chris Latta was alive today, Wheeljack and Starscream would have been voiced by
Hmm.
Chris Latta. So like they really made an all-out effort to do the best possible voice acting, and it's a really good game. It's for people that are familiar with other franchises like Devil May Cry. It's probably
Hmm.
the best, at least in my opinion. Maybe
Devil
you
May
might feel
Cry,
otherwise.
Bayonetta.
Yeah,
No, not Vanquish, but yeah, Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. I would say it would kind of fall into that because it's Platinum Games that made it.
mm.
And yeah, it's a really fun game. It's silly. It's very colorful. Sunday morning cartoon kind of stuff going on, and you're kind of seeing them fight in a way that you've never really seen them fight before. Just very fast. They'll transform and use that as part of their
Their
fighting
combo.
style and stuff like that
Yeah,
as their combat. I thought it was pretty cool and just done very well. Um, but I don't feel it really needs to have a multiplayer thing attached to it because
it did. It I
it's its
didn't
own
think it
thing.
had the. I didn't think it had the structure for something like
Yeah,
that.
it's its own thing. It's a single player kind of game, and also it's kind of trying to be that Saturday morning cartoon vibe. They're trying to
Yeah,
go with it.
it's a definitely way more modern game than let's like as we mentioned, Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron in terms of its look and stuff. The production is really good, but that being said, it didn't have a lot of the overall structure to then be something that could have an online play or and the thing is it's not a very long game either.
Hmm.
I want to mention too. It was something that was a download game or alternatively was a budget game. I'm going to say a budget game because that's kind of an insult to it, but it was a cheaper game that you could pick up
Yeah.
when it first came out, where it could be downloaded or purchased. I believe it was $49.99,
Yeah,
which the
exactly.
average PlayStation three game is like 59, 69 sometimes. So it's a whole other story. But yeah, it's that's another really good one.
And that's the end
Any
of my
others?
list. That's the end.
That's the end of your
Yeah,
list.
yeah. I
All right.
tried. I tried to go in order of when they came out, basically.
Um. So I'm gonna see. What should I talk about? Well, one that I always bring up when I talk about really good Transformer games um, was when the 2007 movie came out. I always bring up the pair of DS games, Transformers the movie Autobot, Transformer the movie Decepticon, which was they were two different DS games based in the movie universe of the 2007 movie. They came out in 2007, and you get to choose to be a brand new recruit of either faction of which one you buy. So if you buy the
Hmm.
Autobot faction, you're a new member of the Autobots you're pretty much living the story of the 2007 movie, although like it feels like it was an early draft of the script, so to speak,
Right.
because there's certain things that happen that are different from the movie. Like they don't like Jazz doesn't die,
Hmm.
you know. But he does fight like he does fight Megatron and characters, but he doesn't die. Um, and there's it's funny playing that game and then looking back, it's like there kind of was spoilers in it because a lot of stuff that does happen in the movie kind of happened in this too, like Megatron breaking free from being captured and stuff.
Hmm.
But it's a cool game because you start off as a protoform and then you have the ability to scan vehicles and have your own custom body. And then you could customize those body with colors and different things like that and make your own unique character. And it's cool because it has a hub world. So then you have your customized character, and then he could travel around this hub world, and you just have like this open world fun. But just like, say, the Lego games or some of the Grand Theft Auto stuff, you have a hub world, but then when you go to certain points, you can then activate your missions and then do stuff within those hub worlds. And each version had its own unique hub worlds where the Autobot one, I think the unique one to it was a desert, where the unique one for the Decepticon one was a ice stage,
Hmm.
like an ice hub world, because they're trying to rescue Megatron.
Right.
So it was really really cool stuff, and for its time, it's a DS game. It had voice acting, which was really good, and they hired like top notch voice actors like Peter Cullen. They got Keith David to do Barricade, and a few others. So it had good voice acting. And also Carl Weathers was the voice director on it, so yay, which was awesome too. For people who don't know, if they missed our previous episode about Carl Weathers, he was Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies, but he also is a voice director. Um, so that was a really, 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 really good game, and for the longest, and what's cool is your original character, you could level him up and customize him, and then you could use your leveled up character and face other characters created by other people via the infrared, however it is now today, you would call it for the DS, and you could play like a death match against other people. And I remember, man, this must have been like TFCon 2009 or 2008. Me, Vangelis, and a few other people brought our games and we played against each other. And I know I got wrecked. Like my
Oh.
character, yeah. Like it seems that ultimately in the end, through that, I learned that yeah, the truck characters are way stronger. So if you scan a truck, your character is gonna be way tougher. Where me, obviously, I scanned like a little
Sports car.
speedy car.
Hmm.
You could and the cool thing about that game too is there's a lot of things that you could scan, and it kind of makes G1 versions of those characters. Like way before there was a Shockwave in the movie continuity, there was this like purple helicopter that you could scan,
Hmm.
and it looks like Shockwave. There was
Ah.
this race car with flames on it that looked like, and it was even called the Hot Rodder. That was the name of the design of the car. Each of the cars that you scan has like a specific name for them,
Hmm.
and so there was one that was totally just Hot Rod. There was a lot of really cool stuff. It was a really, really good game. And again, that you could pick up for like $5 today. You could pick it up really cheap. And it's a shame because they did a sequel, which was Revenge of the Fallens, and it wasn't as good as the first one. They kind of cut down on the customization thing. You only had a choice of three different body types. You still were a unique Autobot in the war, but you played a much smaller role in the ongoing story. And again, There's no more hub world. There's no more
Right.
customization. It's kind of a linear, kind of just beat a mission, go to the next mission thing. So it wasn't as fun. Where that very first one was really good. Um, yeah. What else? I'm trying to think of some others you didn't mention here.
Hmm.
Oh, I know one. The Game Boy Color Beast Wars fighting game.
Yeah.
Um, what's cool about that one is the choice of cast with it, which is usually with the Beast Wars games, it would be like, oh, it's going to be just Beast Wars Second or just Beast Wars Neo or just the Beast Wars cast. This was kind of like an amalgam of like the best of each one. So
Right.
the maximal selection you had was Lio Convoy from Beast Wars Second, Scuba from Beast Wars Second, but you also had Cheetor, you had Optimus Primal, and then you had Star Upper, which was a character that was uniquely made just for this game. He turns into a kangaroo
Mm.
that's a transformer from Beast Wars, and it was, I think they won a contest for that. And there was also some cameos of non-playable characters like DJ, which was one of the members from the Tripredacus combiner team. He makes a cameo, and Icard, which is just a repaint of Scuba in blue, is his brother. From the Predacons, you got to play as Galvatron, but the Galvatron from Beast Wars Second,
Hmm.
Megastorm, which is the G2 Megatron uh, repaint in Beast Wars Second. It's just pretty much G2 Megatron,
Mm.
the tank. Gildart, which is from Beast Wars Neo, which is one of the Dino characters. So he's like the Stegosaurus, or you get to play the actual Beast Megatron, David K. Megatron, and then also you had Starscream BB and the female character Skilla as making cameos. And then there was also an unlockable character, which was Artemis and Moon. Another one. It's a really fun little um, fighter. It's a 2D fighter, so if you know your Hadouken motions and your flash kick motions, you'll do just fine. Like I know Cheetor, if you do a down forward fierce attack, he shoots his gut gun. If you could do it in the air, a la Akuma style.
Hmm.
You could transform mid battle into your alt mode, and then that gives you a whole new set of moves, which was really cool too. So if you're Optimus Primal, you fight in robot mode, but if you transform into ape mode, now your forward kick isn't a forward kick; it's Optimus Primal throwing his butt forward in ape mode, kind of doing like a Princess Peach Smash Brothers like butt throw kind of
Or
hip,
like Yuri from King of Fighters.
or Yuri from King of Fighters, yeah, like that kind of like hip toss kind of hip toss, hip throw kind of thing. And it also has like a hyper gauge, so it has like super moves and stuff. It's your traditional Capcom kind of fighting game fighter, um, but done on the Game Boy Color, so it's obviously more of a 8-bit kind of style, but a really fun game otherwise, and very well done. And dare I say, probably one of the best, if not the best, Game Boy slash Game Boy Color fighting game, because a lot of fighting games on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color were pretty lackluster. Street Fighter on it wasn't that great. Mortal Kombat on it wasn't that great. Killer Instinct on it
Oh,
wasn't that
you were
great.
looking at all the. Oh, you were looking at the bad games. You should have.
Well,
Like
you're gonna mention what's it called there? There was one that was really good.
Power Quest.
Power Quest is a good one.
Power
Yeah.
Quest is a really good one. I would have personally, I would have brought up Batterina Toshinden and King of Fighters '95.
Yeah,
Personally,
that those are good ones. But imagine like Street Fighter, terrible.
yeah.
Like Mortal Kombat, terrible. Like this is actually a smooth running, fast
Well,
paced, legitimate fighting game
mhm.
that you could actually get into and enjoy. I'm trying to think of any others here too. It also had really good art. I just want to mention too. It had like
Yeah.
an SD kind of style, so it's kind of cute too. Mostly because it's and again a very cheap game to pick up. I'm trying to think if there's any others I'm forgetting. I know I must be forgetting something. Um, let me think. Let me think. Is there any modern ones that I'm forgetting? I know like to. You know what? I guess I'll mention like one more,
Mhm.
and the only one and it's a modern one. Um, and it's not so much so the game, but the music was amazing. Angry Birds Transformers. Angry Bird Transformers was a pretty straightforward run and gun kind of game. you just pick a character and he runs, and you just got to kind of aim and shoot at the Decepticon pigs as you go along. But the biggest crowning achievement of that game was Vince DiCola, the original composer of the '86 movie, came back and composed all the music for this. And the music is incredible. Incredible. I remember Josh Perez was talking about how incredible the music was. They did all this stuff that if you love the synth music of the '86 soundtrack by Vince DiCola, this is right up. This is like the sequel to that. It's right up your alley, that music. And so game is okay, but the music is what kept me through it. Like when you're playing that game on your phone and it's loading uh, for the next level, but it's playing the music that Vince DiCola did, so you don't mind waiting on that loading screen because you're bobbing your head going like, yeah, yeah, this is good. This is pretty good. That's another one. There's a lot others, but I guess there's you know what? I'll mention one more, one more, and then one weird one. How about that?
All right, go for it.
There was a obscure Transformer game called Dream Mix TV World Fighters,
I don't
which
even know what
was
you're talking about now.
Hudson Soft, Konami, and Takara's attempt at making their version of Smash
Oh,
Brothers.
okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
So you get to play as Tyson from Beyblade, because that's Konami. You get to play as Master Higgins, because that's Hudson Soft. You get to play as Megatron or Optimus Prime, because that's Takara. Or some of the other Takara. Actually, no, I think that's actually because Takara is Beyblade. That's why Tyson was there. But a lot of weird choices there with that one. And then there's one stage that's Devastator. So it's a weird beat 'em up kind of Smash Brothers bootleg using those brands. I think even Takara is like their Barbie doll equivalent. I think her name is Michi-chan or whatever. Is a playable character too. It's a very weird one. And the last one I want to mention, out of all the stuff that existed of Transformer games, I think that some of the more interesting stuff that existed during the '90s, during the early heydays of the internet, was there was a lot of ROM hacking and fan-made games.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites was a game called Super Dinobot Brothers 2. Specifically Super Dinobot, which is they took Super Mario Brothers 2, the one with the Shy Guys and you know the warts and everything, and they made it that you get to choose one of 4 Dinobots and go through all these stages that were redone to be all Transformer related. So you had like all these different Transformer characters instead of the Mario characters. And what's cool about it is they actually used like really smart thinking, because they're like, okay, well, Princess Peach, if you pick her, she floats. So we're going to make it that if you pick Peach in this, it's actually Swoop, you know? So it's the flying character.
Yeah.
They made it that the overall strong character, which is Mario, is going to be Grimlock. Like it was pretty smart the way they did it. And there's actually an ongoing story with it. And then there's a big twist ending, which is really cool too, that I didn't want to ruin, but there's a cool twist ending at the end, which is like, oh, because just like in Super Mario 2, it's all a dream. So there's a twist ending with this one also. So if I heavily suggest if you could somehow find that online, that would be too difficult. Super Dinobot Brothers 2, really cool ROM hack game. I'd like to actually play it in the future, maybe on our video game channel, just to talk about it. It's a really, really fun little custom game. Anyways, I feel like we've been talking a lot about Transformer video games, but yeah, that's just some of our favorites. Check those out.